guys, welcome to the Beat Sessions, the place for all things music, where we do the listening for you. I'm your host, Keith Grevenitz. Today we're going to talk about a brand spanking new album out today by a very young group with a lot of talent, Greta Van Fleet. But before we get into it, please like and subscribe for us. With your support, we'd love to grow this channel and do great things in music. Well, today, Greta Van Fleet is out with their third studio album, Starcatcher. This is produced by Dave Cobb, producing for Chris Stapleton, Brandy Carlisle, and Sturgill Simpson. This album released with Lava and Republic Records. Okay, Greta consisting of the three Kiska brothers. You got Josh on vocals, Jake on guitar, and Sam on bass and keys. And then their longtime friend, Danny Wagner, beating on the skins. I really like the brothers playing together. And when I think about it, it makes so much sense. Musical influences, backbone influences come from your childhood, from your parents. So to me, it makes total sense how a great musical chemistry can just come naturally there. Their parents said to have listened to folk and blues. What do you know? That sounds like the formula for Led Zeppelin. The band has done their best to avoid the comparison with the rock gods. I get it. They don't want to be a derivative band. But me, like most children raised on their parents' classic rock, went through a very stout Led Zeppelin phase. So much so that I think I might have exhausted Led Zeppelin. I was talking about it with Mitch earlier. I don't even put it on much. I'll let it, if it comes on, I'm excited, but I'm sure a lot of you out there had your version of this, and if you did, it's hard to not hear Led Zeppelin and Greta Van Fleet. Down to the tone of the instruments, vocal sounds, guitar style, and inflections. Come on, Sam plays bass and organ like John Paul Jones. When they go acoustic, it sounds Zeppelin-esque. How many of you Greta fans listen to them because they sound like Zeppelin? For me, it was a good reason to check them out. Robert Plant describes the band as Zeppelin 1 and jokes about how the band says their bigger influence is Aerosmith. It's funny how Plant looked at that and he rolled his eyes when they said they weren't influenced by Zeppelin. But Jake on guitar seems to be okay with being said to be like Jimmy Page. Listen to this album, I can hear how they are trying a bit to get out from the Zeppelin shadow, but it still lingers. And who would say that's a bad thing? These guys are still young. The twins, Josh and Jake, are just 27, and Sam is 24. Just a little aside here, Josh recently has made it public that he's gay. He's been in a relationship for 8 years and only been out about this for a little more than a month. But friends and family has known. So, that's interesting. So what I like about these guys is that they keep rock alive. And the best era of it. Even if they can be considered derivative, there's such a big space there to be a part of. There was a lot of diversity in Zeppelin and some of Greta's other influences. The ability to slide back and forth between blues rock sound, and folk is one of the things that set Zeppelin aside. Plant, he was really a folk guy when it came down to it. So I know I've talked about comparing Greta, but let's break this down track by track. The opener is called Fate of the Faithful. The sound here is very neo-classic rock. Gotta say here, the keys here are very John Paul Jones in tone and feel. The breaks and stops keep this track fresh. A nice guitar solo here from Jake. Definitely hearing Page here in tone and in the way he picks. But that might be it. I'm a guitar player, and to deny this would maybe be absurd. The next track is called Waited All Your Life. Feeling some Misty Mountain here. This track, a nice blend of folk and folk rock. The one thing this has me wanting is less effects on Josh's vocals. I don't think he needs them. This may be a way for him to stand out, but part of me wants to hear those pipes unadulterated. In an era where some performers don't even need vocal talent, hiding behind auto tune and big effects, someone like Josh that is so naturally blessed could go without, in my opinion. The Falling Sky is the third track, feeling like a country blues rock vibe here, infused with Led Zeppelin. Again, Josh's vocals sound distant and corrupted. A harmonica solo here is pretty cool. You don't hear that a lot anymore, but I'm lukewarm on this track. That harmonica, though, you know where I would point to where that comes from. Sacred the Thread opening up with a When the Levee Breaks drum beat, and that's hard to deny, people. It really is. The only problem I'm having with that is that no one is ever going to do Led Zeppelin better than Led Zeppelin. Though I appreciate the effort, listening to these guys makes me want to check them out live. That was the natural progression for my Zeppelin phase. Eventually, I only wanted to listen to the band live. I bet these guys are fun, and I could definitely see myself checking them out. Runway Blues is track 5. This is a more up-tempo one and very short. It's quick and rocking, and then it's over before you know it. Little transitionary track there. And it runs right into Indigo Streak, which is another riff-driven song. A nice riff, too. We have a cool vocal harmony that comes in and accents here. Dave Cobb getting some writing credits here, and I'm wondering how that worked. I'm always interested to know how bands write and put together their songs. There's a cool breakdown here. I want to point out that lyrically speaking, this album is pretty great. Those lyrics are cool. Really tapping into some of that, like the magical classic rock lyrics that you'd hear from a Rush or a Zeppelin. Frozen Light it's a very garage band sounding track from the get-go. But if you're listening to this album from end to end, at this point, the tracks are starting to blend together a little bit. The album is very riff-driven, a lot of sustained vocals from Josh. It seems to stay in a pocket, and it's not a bad pocket to hang in. But I'm wondering if the group couldn't benefit from a bit more diversity. And man, lay off those vocal effects for one song. I have to say, if I walked in, and Greta was playing at a bar, I'd probably be stoked. But maybe I'll have to check him out live, like I said. The Archer is another riff-strong tune with a hi-hat keeping this one afloat. Again, if you're listening to this from beginning to end, I start to get a little bored this far in. Vocally speaking, Josh could stand to add more tools to his war chest. His high belt becomes a consistency in each song, and one could argue it doesn't have to be. Another solo in this one in a Page tone, but Jake's solos never go where Page's do. At me if you don't agree, but as my old guitar instructor would say, Page is a monster, and it's true he is. Not just in speed and tone, but in solo building. That's why some of his solos will always be remembered. The story that they weave, while Jake plays some cool riffs, ultimately I'm not hearing anything stand out here. I'm sorry to say it, but if you want to be classic rock, blues rock, Zeppelin, you have some big shoes to fill. Meeting the Master opens acoustic and, sounds like that old Zeppelin acoustic. Vocals here sounding a little bit more like Geddy Lee, though, than Plant. I feel like Josh wavers between the two often. This is a good track, but there's not enough to stand out. A lot of these songs come off almost as covers. This one goes really big, building up, and then slowing down back in the end. The last track is called Farewell for Now, and I'm ready to say goodbye. And guys, I like this album, but when I'm doing these reviews, I'm giving the albums the ultimate durability test. I'm beating them up, listening to the whole album multiple times consecutively, and that's not always easy. Sometimes an album will make it easier, and this one is a good listen. This band rocks and is very talented, but I just can't ever put them in the ranks of Zeppelin or even Aerosmith. There's no real winner tracks here. Nothing I'd even distinguish as my favorite. Let me tell you, I went into this wanting more, and maybe that was my problem. I keep thinking these guys are young and have a lot of room to grow, but Zeppelin was young. Page was just 25 in 1969, and man, did he stand out. He was just so mature in his playing, and that's why a lot of people, I think, say he sold his soul. But, all in all, maybe it's just the playing field that Greta Van Fleet is throwing themselves into here. Or maybe it's that they are caught in being a derivative act and can't really grow into their own sound. On a whole, I like this album, but it could have been more. Maybe Josh needs to be checked. If I were producing Greta's next album, I'd start with teaching Josh to save the top of his pipes, that highest register part, and not overuse them. I'd tell Jake to rethink how he forms his solos. Tell me a story. Don't just play notes that you think sound cool or that you should play. Weave me a fucking tale with that solo. The rhythm section here, I feel, is just following the lead of Josh and Jake, and they do a great job. I mean, is it a John Bonham and is it a John Paul Jones? I don't know. I don't think so, but it's good. But thanks for tuning in today, guys. I'm Keith Greveness with the B Sessions. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more reviews. Mitch out later today with a new one from Damon Albarn, and it's not the Gorillas. I'll see you guys.